Good morning and welcome. It's really nice to have you here with us in this virtual meeting this November morning. At least where I'm based in the southern parts of Sweden, it's kind of a grey and wet morning, but I'm sure we will be able to keep the heat up in this meeting. So this virtual meeting here today is hosted by the Nordic Testbed Network, and this is a network aiming to support the digital transformation of the Nordic bioeconomy. And in the preparations for today, we had discussions with all our testbed members about which topics are sort of the key thinking within their testbeds at the moment. And we came to a decision that actually how to organize a testbed is something that many of our members are working on at the moment. So how to secure long-term funding, how to ensure the correct partnerships and the networking needed in order to facilitate the development of the testbed. So that is what we will focus upon for the next 2 hours. And, which I'm very happy to announce, we will also have the opportunity here to present some of our new testbed members. So I'm really looking forward to that. My name is Maria Thunberg and I'm an affiliated researcher at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. And I'm also a consultant within the telecom industry. So I feel very fortunate being in this interesting intersection between digitalization and bioeconomy. And on behalf of Nordic Forest Research, Nordic Agri-Research and the Nordic Council of Ministers Working Group for Fishery and Aquaculture, I will guide you through this webinar here today. And the webinar is being recorded, so I wanted to let you know that, and it will later on be posted on the Nordic Testbed Network's website. So if you want to spread it afterwards or look at something specific, then you can always find it there. And I would also like to encourage everyone taking part in the meeting to share questions and reflections in the chat function. And in a matter of time, I will try to sort of bring that into discussion with the speakers. And after we finish the meeting here today, we will invite you all into a virtual mingle in a room called Wonder, or a platform called Wonder. So I will guide you through that as well. But most welcome. And my intentions, my hopes is that when you leave for lunch today, you will both feel that you got a bit of inspiration with you and also that hopefully you learned something new. Not the least from the presentation of our new testbed members, but also from our keynote lecture and the panel discussion, which we will have later on. And a few words about the agenda for today. So after the few welcoming points, and I will also tell you a little bit about the network for those of you who are new to the Nordic Testbed Network. And we will then move into, I think, a really interesting session where we will have short presentations from 5 of our new Testbed Network members. So we have Blaize from Sites that will say a few words, Andrius from AquaVIP. We also have Jens Petter from DigiFoods and Anta from Latvian Garden. And we also have a video message from Anta and the Latvian Institute of Aquatic Ecology. And after that, I'm happy to announce that we have a keynote lecture today from something called Nordic Proof. And Siri will tell us all about what that is and why that might be relevant for us in the Nordic Testbed Network. We will then have a short break, and when we come back, we will enter into a panel discussion with Thordu from Nordic Innovation. We also have Jonas from one of our testbed members, Digitalized Agriculture, and also Carmen representing EIT Food. And at the end of the meeting, we will also have some final reflection and then move into this interactive session. So I think we will have good fun for the next coming 2 hours. And this is a list just to show you a variety. I'm sure you can't see all the details here, but these are everyone who signed up for this webinar today. Perhaps some of you will join later on, but this I think shows a bit about the breadth and the width of the people interested in the Nordic Testbed Network. And I just wanted to highlight a few points here. We have, for example, different research institutes interested in this, like RISE on the Swedish side and VTT in Finland. We also have private companies, like for example Vultus, most welcome to you guys. And we also have representatives from the Nordic Council of Ministers and, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in Finland. So we really have this triple helix kind of constellation here. And I'm also a bit curious to learn more about you who chose to participate here today. So I would like to ask all of you to participate in a really small and quick Menti exercise. And for those of you who are new to Menti, I have to say it's often quite easy. So all you have to do is to enter this website, which you see on the slide here. So it's www.menti.com. And you will then be asked for a code, and the code is what you see here on the page as well. So it's 34224937, and you will be asked to answer 2 questions, namely what field do you represent here today, and also where are you based. So I will switch over my presentation here to be able to see some of your responses, because I am very curious to see who we have with us here today. So I think now we can start to get a few answers in here at least. Thank you so much for sharing. We have some people from forestry. We also have quite a few representing agriculture here, and a few on the fishery and aquaculture side. And we also have some others. So that, I mean, it would be really interesting if you just post in the chat what others means to you. So what sector do you represent here today? And perhaps some of you actually represent more than one of these. Thank you. Please continue adding there if you like, because it's quite nice for us coordinating this network to afterwards see sort of who did we manage to get into this meeting. So thanks for sharing that. I'm also curious to see which countries or regions we have represented here today. So I can see we have a few Swedes, we have from Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Latvia, most welcome, and also Lithuania. And as mentioned, if you did not have the time already to put your answers in there, please continue doing so, even if I change back to the PowerPoint presentation, because it's really nice to see who we have in the meeting. There we have a few others. And the same thing with others. Please post in the chat. Where are you from? We are really interested to see how we manage with the reach here. We have a few more from Norway and Denmark. Excellent. Thank you so much. And most welcome to all of you. Let's move back to the presentation here. And we will continue within our schedule for today. There we go. So I want to just, in the beginning of this meeting today, to say a few words about the network itself. So this network is aiming to unite and strengthen existing testbeds, and by doing so supporting the digital transformation in the bioeconomy. So the network as such is not here to sort of initiate new testbed environments, but rather to connect the ones we have within the Nordic and Baltic regions at the moment. And we set out a few years ago a vision for 2023, and that is that we together are being able to co-create solutions for the digital bioeconomy, so to actually work together between different testbeds. And the milestone for this year, for 2021, is to increase the knowledge sharing between testbeds in this region. So that's a little bit about the vision and the milestone that we had set out for this year. And I also wanted to touch upon the 3 main concepts within the Nordic Testbed Network. So we have bioeconomy, digitalisation, and testbeds. And when we talk about bioeconomy, what we primarily talk about is this bio-based part of the total economy. So we talk about forestry, agriculture, and also the blue side, so fishery and aquaculture. And turning to digitalisation, we take this wide definition of digitalisation. So really any transformation that has it based in new digital technology. So it could be anything from new business models enabled by digital technology to very specific technical solutions. And the third and final concept that is vital to us is, of course, test beds. And that's kind of a tricky term we learned over the years because different individuals, different actors put different meaning into this word. But what we mean by testbed is either a physical or a virtual environment where businesses, academia and other organizations can come together to innovate and develop new solutions for the digital bioeconomy. So it should be an open environment where different people and actors could come together and work on exciting solutions. So that was a little bit about both the vision and milestone for the network, but also the key concepts that we work with. Having said that, I would like to invite Jonas Rönnberg, who's head of Nordic Forest Research, and ask you, Jonas, how are you today and what are your expectations for this virtual meeting?
Thank you. Well, I'm fine, despite the gloomy weather. So it's always nice to be joining these meetings, especially when the weather is what it is here. But expectations on the day here, well, I'm right now organizing myself a new center. It's not a test bed, but I know that it's very tricky sometimes to get things organized. So I hope that there will be some new insights for all of us when it comes to that, on how to organize. And then these issues with financing. It's nice to be able to say here now that we will be part of not only the support from our SNS and NKJ and the fishery side, but also of the new cross-sectoral network at the council here, Nordic ministers. So we will have some extra support for working. And I hope that we will get good ideas on how to use this extra support in the best way for you as testbeds, and how we can strengthen you with the Nordic added value. So those are I hope we will get some input for these so we can move on and take this network to the next level, so to speak, the coming years. And I think that maybe that is enough. It's really nice to see new members on the blue fishery side here. And I hope that you all know about SNS and NKJ, but we are collaborative units under the Nordic Council of Ministers with focus on the forestry side for SNS and agriculture and food side for NKJ. And then I know that Helge will say perhaps something more on the blue and fisheries side. So looking forward to the rest of the morning here.
Thank you so much, Jonas. And it's a nice news indeed, I think, hearing that we have some additional funding coming into the network and that we are really keen on sort of listening in and tapping into what you as testbed members and other people involved in the sector have for ideas that we could focus upon going forward. So thank you, Jonas. I would also like to show this picture because it makes me very happy. It's all the members that we have in the network at the moment. So I really encourage anyone that's interested to enter the website for the Nordic Testbed Network and look into these different network members. So we have everything here from smart farming to very interesting garden developments, and we also, as you can see, have a range of new blue sector testbed members. But we will come back to that. Perhaps someone is wondering who can join this network, and really it's anyone who's interested and able to contribute to this vision that I pointed out earlier. And the core, of course, are testbeds engaged in this digital transformation of both Nordic and Baltic bioeconomy. So if you think that you fit within this description and you are interested, please just get in contact with me after the meeting and we will set up a meeting. Perhaps also interesting to point out that joining the network for the members is free of any charge, and also will facilitate you getting in contact with other very interesting testbeds throughout this region. So just some of the points on the sort of upside, and also of course being able to take part in this kind of webinars and other type of activities. Having that said, I would like to welcome Helge on the stage here. Good morning, Helge. How are you today?
Morning. I'm very well and looking forward to the meeting and looking forward to all the input we'll be getting. My name is Helge Paulsen. I'm representing the Fisheries Corporation of the Nordic Council of Ministers. And as some of you might know, the general aim of the Nordic Council of Ministers is to promote Nordic cooperation and achieve added value by doing it. And in this way, the testbed project fits very well into the general aims of the Nordic Council of Ministers. We want to achieve mutual benefit in cooperation around the testbeds we have established. Until now, we have identified a lot of relevant testbeds, but the project will only have a lasting value if these testbeds are actually getting into a cooperation, that a cooperation is established. And this is, as I see it, the next and most important part of the project, that the testbeds are actually used and that the partners actually are brought together, partners which would not have been brought together if we have not had this project. In the Nordic Council of Ministers, we have this general aim of creating cooperation. And actually, there is a lot of ways that the Nordic Council of Ministers can support establishing cooperation. We have organizations on the research side. We have Nordforsk. We have organizations on the innovation side, Nordic Innovation, which is also represented here today. On the education side, it's Nordplus. And then we have 11 minister councils which are covering most aspects of politics. You can read about these possibilities and how it's organized if you go into the homepage of norden.org. And there you can see the possibilities that if you want to make cooperation in the different areas, what possibilities there are for support for this cooperation. But you should also be aware that the Nordic Council of Ministers has some priority areas. We have established a vision for the work in the coming years. We have a vision where we want to have a green Nordic society, a competitive Nordic society, and a social sustainable society. And this is the key for what we want to work with. So cooperation should of course be Nordic, but it should also reflect the visions we have. And you can find the vision also on the Nordic homepage, norden.org. In the Fisheries Corporation, we are particularly, of course, working with the fisheries area, and we do that in practice, we support cooperation in establishing conferences, workshops, network formation, analysis, and generally we try to support cooperation in ways which is difficult in other places. You can get practical support for practical activities in Nordic innovation at research councils, etc. But support for actually doing the cooperation part of it can be difficult. And this is an area where we find that we can get good value for the money we have established. So if you plan to do cooperation, at least in the sector of fisheries, and use the testbeds we have now established and see that they fit into the general priorities of the Nordic Council of Ministers, then there are good possibilities of getting support for the work. So I think that if you contact the project secretariat of the testbed project, or the partners, then they will be very willing to help you, and we will definitely try to see if we can create real cooperation and networking. I think that's what I'll be saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helge, for that excellent introduction to the Nordic cooperation and the different possibilities for finding different funding opportunities. Thank you so much. We are very happy to have the blue side within this network as well. Now it's time to move to our new testbed members. And we have quite a few new members who have joined over the last couple of months, and we would like to introduce 5 of them here to you today. And first of all, I would like to welcome Blaize, representing the Swedish Infrastructure for Ecosystem Sciences. So Blaize, please go ahead. I will click through your slides, so just let me know when you're ready.
Great, yes, thanks Marianne. Thanks for the invitation for sites to join the network and also to present a little bit about ourselves today. So my name is Blaize Denfeld. I'm the site's Deputy Director. Site is, we can start, I don't know if the presentation started, but fine to start the presentation.
Yes, we have your first slide on Blaize.
Great, thank you. Yeah, SITES is a Swedish infrastructure for ecosystem science. It's a national infrastructure that facilitates long-term monitoring in field-based terrestrial and aquatic research. And really at the core of SITES is the 9 field stations, which you can see in the map on the right. So these field stations are distributed across Sweden, across climate zones, but they also represent a diverse set of habitats within Sweden. And this ranges from agricultural lands, forests, mountainous areas in the north, wetlands of different types, including lakes and streams. And so it really offers a great opportunity for research to look at across habitats and across climate zones. SITES is funded by the Swedish Research Council in collaboration with 5 partner organizations, which are listed at the bottom of the slide. And SLU, where I'm based and the Secretariat for SITES is based, is the coordinating organization. Next slide, please. So organizationally, SITES offers a network of stations and associated staff that provide data coordination and station-based user support. And I'll go into that in a second in terms of what that means for users of SITES. But also, SITES is a community, not only for the stations, but also for the ecosystem research across Sweden and internationally. And we also engage with stakeholders, such as forest managers, different agencies within Sweden, and educators, so people can come to the field stations and have field excursions and learn a bit more about the research, as well as use the data within SITES. And lastly, we're a community with other networks, such as the Nordic Testbed Network, both internationally and nationally within Sweden. So SITES strives to be an open and collaborative in terms of both the data that we provide, as well as knowledge sharing. So I think it fits really nicely into the Nordic Testbed Network's ideas as well. And in terms of data, as I mentioned, so SITES data, we have a data portal where you can access open and free data as long as you agree to the license agreement. And the data on the portal includes long-term ecosystem data from across the stations. So this is long-term meteorological data for some of our stations. For example, in Tarfala, there's long-term glacier data, and as well as station background data. So this includes GIS layers. So you can really get a sense of long-term trends at the station, but also more specific details about the landscape surrounding the station. And the data also comes from our thematic programs, which I will now explain what these thematic programs are. So we currently have 3 thematic programs. The first thematic program is SITES Water that you see here. And I should mention these thematic programs are a way to coordinate across stations and themes. So the different stations participate in these thematic programs. So the first one, SITES Water, is really looking at lake and stream long-term monitoring, but it's also connecting to the terrestrial landscape in terms of how biogeochemistry affects from mire and forestry. The next thematic program we have is SITES and this is a lake mesocosm manipulation experiment. So you can really look at detail how different climate change might change different biology in the lake and other processes. And lastly, we have a program called Site Spectral. And this is looking at spectral data, so using both fixed cameras and sensors, as well as drones, to understand the terrestrial ecosystem landscape. So those are the three thematic programs we have that the stations help support. We also have station-based user support. So what this means is users of the network can gain access to the station both physically at the station as well as remote access. And the station staff are there to support the user. So this can be in terms of helping in the pre-planning of their project, actually carrying out the project when they're at the station. And in addition to this support, the users also have access to large-scale ecosystem experiments at the station. And for this group, what might be of interest is we have a agroecological field experiments at 2 of our stations. We also have many forest and wetland management and restoration experiments going on across our stations. And so with that, I will go to the last slide. And I know that was a very brief and maybe quick overview of sites, but hopefully it gave you some ideas of what sites is and sparked some interest. So please, if you have any questions, you can contact me directly, but also feel free to check out our website, which is listed there, as well as going to search the data portal for, as I said, the open data that is now up. And you can follow us on social media. We have Twitter and Facebook, as well as join our newsletter. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from the other organizations that are part of the network. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blaize, for that very nice and informative introduction of sites. And as you could hear here, you're almost welcome to get in contact with Blaize if you want to learn more or are curious about the site network. Thank you so much, Blaize. Please also put, for everyone participating, questions in the chat function, and we will try to bring those to the attention of Blaize later on. And as mentioned, there will be an interactive session at the end of today, so there you could also try to get opportunity to talk to Blaize further. I would now like to turn to Andrius, representing AquaVIP. Andrius, do we have you with us? There we go. Most welcome. And please tell us, what is AquaVIP?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation and introduction. My name is Andrius Sutnikas. I am the development manager at the Science and Technology Park, and also a coordinator of Lithuanian Maritime Cluster. So today I will try to present you the testbed, AquaVIP, which is actually an aquaculture competence center for South Baltic Sea region. So a little bit of the history. In 2017, we started with a small RAS system for marine species here in Klaipėda.
Andrius, can I just ask you to put your presentation in full mode, or I can share it for you, whatever you prefer?
I thought I did so, I'm sorry.
I think now we see it in... Or I have your slides here for you. I can show them for you as well. Just tell me to click. If you stop sharing, I can show them for you. There you're set, Andrius. Your first slide is on.
All right. Good. So starting again. So we started with a little system, and we tried to bring some attention for the local science and industry on marine aquaculture species, since freshwater aquaculture was kind of under development in Lithuania. Still, the marine species were not so known and popular in the market. And we do understand that there is a huge potential for aquaculture industry to contribute to the supply of the food in Europe, since only approximately 10% of EU seafood consumption comes from EU aquaculture. So establishing, can you go ahead?
Absolutely.
Establishing this aquaculture competence center, we wanted to contribute to the strategy of sustainable blue growth for European Union. that has set the 4 main priorities for the future aquaculture development in EU. So building resilience and competitiveness, participating in the green transition, and ensuring social acceptance and consumer information, and increasing knowledge and innovation. So technically, we build this infrastructure to help implement the EU Sustainable Blue Growth strategy in the region, helping aquaculture industry to gain competitiveness, access to knowledge and innovation, and provide skilled workforce, which these factors were indicated as a major drawbacks on aquaculture industry development for the region and EU. So moving on, I would say we go to the last slide now. Straight to the last slide. Yeah. We reached out to other institutions in the South Baltic Sea region, which is Gdansk University, Rostock University, and Klaipėda University. We brought those 3 partners together to kind of provide a joint infrastructure instead of localizing the scientific competence and scientific infrastructure. We enable the cooperation among the 3 partners to expand our competence list or the infrastructure set. So now we operate 3 infrastructures. First is the 50 cubic meter marine RAS system for shrimp or any other marine species here in Klaipėda University. 100 cubic meter freshwater system also in Klaipėda University, and aquaponic RAS system combined with the greenhouse in the Rostock University. So these 3 research and testing infrastructures are available for your demand. If you have any kind of biotechnological, mechanical, or digital solution that you would like to test for aquaculture purposes, improving aquaculture processes, the infrastructure can be available for you. This year we have implemented 10 different experiments for the industry and scientific partners with the different approaches, from mechanical setup to test of the feed and the new species for the industry. So this is fully functional and product and service oriented infrastructure. If you have any ideas how you can utilize it for your purpose, please don't hesitate to find me through the Testbed Network or contact directly. That would be it. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Andrius. As you could all hear, you're more than welcome to get in contact with Andrius to further discuss the AquaVIP and the possibilities to use the infrastructure there. Thank you so much, Andrius. I would then like to move forward, and I would like to invite Jens Petter, working at DigiFoods. Welcome, Jens Petter.
Thank you.
Please tell us, what is DigiFoods?
Yes, so thank you for letting me join here, and also this network. I'm working at Nofima, that's the Norwegian Research Institute in Norway, and I'm head of DigiFoods. I don't know if you can see my slides. I don't see them.
It's on its way?
Yes, that's right. So DigiFoods is actually a research center, what we in Norway call a Center for Research-Based Innovation. It is funded by the Norwegian Research Council over about 8 years. The center consists of 27 partners from research and also companies from food companies, sensors and robotics, and also IT and computer companies. And one main aim of this center is to develop smart sensors that can measure food quality in process, like you see in these pictures. So these sensors can measure the most important quality parameters, and as you most likely know, the quality of foods varies tremendously, and it's important to utilize this quality variation in the best possible way in order to utilize our raw materials both in a sustainable way and in a way that we can make profit out of it in the best possible way also. So then you can take the next slide. What we're also doing here is to introduce these sensors into this new digital era where we will use them in the process line as shown here, where they can be used to optimize the processes, sort products to different segments, or to adjust the process to optimize the production and as I said, to utilize the raw material variation in the best possible way. We will also collect all of this information. So what we are doing is we are actually measuring and also digitizing the food quality and collecting it in this digital cloud, and we can then connect it with the rest of the food value chain in order to understand, for instance, what in the primary production is affecting the quality of the products. And we, in that way, our aim is to optimize the whole value chains. And our testbed in this case is that we have pilot plants here in Ås in Norway where we can test out these sensors. But our main testbed is actually the food companies, because most of the work we are doing in their process lines. And I would also like to say that the sensors we are developing and using in this center are quite generic, so they can be used also on a lot of other things. So there might be interest in the network to be able to look into opportunities on your side. And then you can take the next slide. Just very briefly summarize the main research tasks in the center. So it's divided into 4 parts. One part is to actually make new sensors that can be used that do not exist today. A second part is to integrate these sensors with robotics. So both you can use robotics to control the sensors in, let's say, complex process lines in the food industry, but also we will equip autonomous agricultural robots with these sensors so that the robots can actually see, for instance, food quality, which is needed for them to work properly. A third part is to make these sensors work properly in the process, and these are the test beds. And the fourth part is to learn and understand how can we use all of this information in the best possible way to actually make a more sustainable food production. So you will see our contact information on for instance, the Testbed Network homepage, or you can just search for DigiFoods and you will find us on the net. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jens Petter. I understand you take this perspective of the whole value chain, and also you here specifically pointed out and the sensors as one potential contact with different test beds that they might be interested in sort of learning from your technique and using it.
That's right.
Thank you so much. Very exciting. And as you heard, you're more than welcome to get in contact with DigiFoods, either through the Nordic Testbed Network or directly with Jens Petter. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to Latvian iGarden, and I would like to say hello and welcome to Anta. Let's see if we can get Anta in picture. Excellent.
Hello.
Good morning, hello. Anta. Please.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, and what a lovely picture you have in your background.
Yes, these are my test beds.
Of course. Please tell us more about it. I will start your presentation.
First, I would like to say my greetings in Latvian national holiday or Independence Day. So it's a very good opportunity to start in such wonderful day, and I hope that our work together in digitalization process get us in new future. and it is very interesting. Please, you can turn on my slides. You can.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the problems what we work about in the Boulder Horticulture School, where I work as head of research department of biotechnologies. We are working in such new fields in horticulture as aeroponic and hydroponic, but as well we have a large ornamental plant collection and vegetable plant collections to teach our students about horticulture, everything. And so we start to move forward and want to get, as previous speakers said, more information, but not about food, but about plants and flowers. And so we plan our test beds or our plant collections to be open for all digital possibilities and try to use sensors and robots and all digital stuff for what is we can imagine of. And could you please then slide?
Absolutely.
So we are automatic irrigation system, and plants are planted in repeats to get better experiment data. And now we, together with three universities of Latvia in project, the AP Agri Projects Cooperation, work to build up a robot who will go around the plant beds and test or get information about plant health, plant growth, phenological data, and again put in programs collecting big data. And now we are thinking how to get more information from this data, and of course get information to the irrigation system or gardeners or other digital solutions, how to maintenance with plant beds as more as it is possible. And for these plant beds, next slide, we work together, three universities, landscape gardeners, plant nurseries, Boulder Horticulture School, and we are looking forward to continue our data collection work because as you know, in agriculture, we need 3 years before we can start to understand if it works or doesn't. And of course, to fulfill our robot or use other drone or robot solutions in our garden. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting to hear more about the iGarden, and thank you for attending, even though you're on a national holiday. So thank you very much, Anta. And if anyone is interested, are they okay to get in contact with you? It's that.
Yes, of course. I have contacts in Nordic Testbed page and in Boulder Horticulture School, and we are very looking forward to new projects and cooperation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So anyone curious about the iGarden and want to learn more, you're more than welcome to get in contact with Anta. Thank you so much. And I would now like to turn to the second new testbed from Latvia. And here we have a video greeting. So let's see if I can make that work.
Welcome to the Latvian Institute of Aquatic Ecology. We are based in Riga, capital city of Latvia, and we are located on the shore of River Daugava, the largest Latvian river. We are interested in water, both marine and freshwater. What happens here, what lives here, and why. And we also can offer whole Latvian marine waters as a testbed for testing solutions and finding answers. Ourselves, we use vessels to sample, to go out in the sea, smaller ones like boats and also larger ones, and we also go underwater. We are are interested also in animals, both larger and those who had to be looked at under a microscope. And we also check beaches for algae and microplastics there. In water, we use also oceanographic measuring devices, more traditional ones like CTDs, and we deploy also acoustic current profiler. And we are proud having 3 smart buoys now deployed in Latvian waters. Here it's the one close to lighthouse of Irbe, and we get online measurements from those smart buoys. Happy to introduce our institute to you.
There we go.
Well,
Let's see. That was the 5th and final presentation from the new testbed members. So all of you, of course, most welcome, and thank you so much for presenting some of the very interesting work you are engaged in. And we look forward to continued conversations on your different testbeds. So thank you so much. And for everyone participating, please stay in the meeting after we close the Zoom meeting, because then you can enter into these interactive discussions with the new testbeds if you're interested. But now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Siri, who will tell us a little bit about Nordic Proof. And this is a concept that we are very curious about, and we want to see if there is something we can sort of get inspired by and learn from the way you are working, Siri. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and also about the Nordic Proof concept and how you work. The stage is yours, Siri.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the invitation. I must say it's also really inspiring to be a visiting listener in here on a completely different network in a different industry than what I'm going to talk about now. Because now I'm going to give you a little look into a network within the healthcare sector. So my name is Siri Stabel Olsen, and I am one of the coordinator of a Nordic network called Nordic Proof. So I think we can then start this sharing of the slides. So that's what I will do right away now. And then I will give you an introduction to maybe and hopefully give you some inspiration for how we are working in the Nordic Proof. So again, this is a network of public healthcare testbeds in the Nordic. It's partly funded by Nordic Innovation, so
Siri,
we are
I'm sorry,
very happy about that. And
Siri, I'm sorry
yes.
to interrupt you, but we still don't see your slides in full screen. So if you just try to press the presentation sharing mode again, we'll see if we can get that working.
Okay, I will then take the stop sharing and I will do the sharing again.
This is always what happened, right, Siri? We tried it before the meeting and everything works fine.
Did.
And
so
then
I will try
in
a
action.
different way now, and then we'll see if this is working better.
So we still, yeah, that's perfect. Excellent.
Okay, then we go. Thank you, Maria. Okay, so what is Nordic Proof? Nordic Proof is a consortium of premium healthcare testbeds in the Nordics. So we have here members typically from the hospitals and from the municipal sector, and also more related to pure software testing being used in the healthcare sector. So we have both Swedish members here with Nordic Medtest and Andrius. We have Norwegian, Oslo University Hospital, Sunnaas Hospital, and a smart care laboratory in the western part of Norway. We have Helsinki University Hospital, and we have Oulu Health Labs in Finland, and we have VTech in Denmark. And currently we are working on also getting new partners, but we are, let's say, bit different network than the one that I'm invited to today. So we are not probably planning to have that many partners, as we are operating in a little different way. So this is, you can see, I'm not going to go through this in detail at all, but you see that we are 2 coordinators here of this network to actually run the network. So, and the mission of the network is to offer easy access to the most renowned health institutions and testing hubs within healthcare in the Nordics. And they should provide professional expertise, predictability, and solid service based on especially real customer needs. And in this case, real customer needs will be within the hospital, for the healthcare workers, for the patients. So the main objective is that we want to create new and more effective healthcare services. At the same time, we want to help to grow the industry in the Nordics by having more products and services that are targeted to the needs in the market. So the collaboration here is that it's a very close collaboration between the industry and the test beds. So because the test beds and the hospitals and the primary care in the municipalities, they have some needs to improve their healthcare. And there are some industry that is able to answer out those needs. And this interaction is really important. So what we offer is in principle one way in to a number of test beds. And so what we do as, for example, coordinators is that we have created a one point of contact to the network, so that it's very easy to follow up every inquiry that we receive to all the partners of the network. And the output for the industry and the companies is that it will be tested with the Nordic quality and expertise, which is ranked high in the world. So we do provide services throughout the whole development cycle of a new product or service. So, you know, all the way from starting from the product requirement and identifying, defining user needs throughout the development cycle, doing clinical studies and doing also surveys after the product is in the market. And through our website, we continuously post, you know, case studies so that the industry can be kind of inspired and understand how we can help them. So in order to run a network like Nordic Proof, funding is needed. It's been mentioned here earlier already, and it's needed for operation of the network, for strategic development of the network, and for marketing of the test beds and network to the industry. So this is, as mentioned, co-financing between the Nordic Innovation and the testbed partners during the project period. And we are also looking into, you know, different business models to have this as a sustainable long-term project. There is no signs that that this network is not going to last for a long time. So how do we operate? We have a back office system where we utilize a platform called Confluence. You see some snapshot here at the bottom of this page. Here we, for example, we have all our inquiries from the different companies listed with a lot of details underneath each and one of them, because we actually have to fill in a form which we are handling from the coordinator side and put into this back office system. And then we have every 2 weeks, we have meetings with all the partners. We discuss and match new inquiries from the industry, and we follow up with the inquiries in process. Then we also have monthly sharing of best practice sessions between the partners, so that they, with different thematic focuses. And we are utilizing again this back office system where we are also loading up kind of the information that each of the partners are providing to this network so that they can look back and see what the other partners are doing in a specific team. And then we have partner meetings at the partner site, at least after COVID. We had to also arrange a few online. That also worked fine, but not in a way the same as being able to be face-to-face. So this picture here is actually from our latest partner meeting in Oulu now in October. And here all the partners are gathered, and it's a knowledge sharing and strategic development focus. And we visit various parts of the test beds. From a marketing perspective, the website is, as for many other organizations, the major tool to do the marketing. We utilize this quite significantly, and we have also breakfast meeting and speed dating partners, speed dating options between partners and industry. Similarly, we do that with webinars. Of course, we are also active in SoMe, and we are also active to present Nordic Proof outside of the Nordics. So these are pictures from some of various types of breakfast meetings and one-to-one opportunities where we arrange speed dating and have up to 100 one-to-ones in 1.5 hours with all the partners and the industry. Again, Nordic Proof website is an important communications channel to the industry in need of test services. And the most effective marketing is actually the events. And we do run quite many events over a year. And for each of the events, we have between 50 and 100 speed date meetings. And that is very appreciated by the industry and the partners. And we do, as you do as well, we do streaming and make that very easy available under the event on our website so that the industry can come and look back on different topics that they have especially interest in. So that is what I plan to share this morning. I hope you find it inspiring.
Thank you so much, Siri. I think it's very inspiring to have a little bit of a peek into a different industry, but someone deeply involved in coordinating different test beds and sort of making the most out of it. I think it was interesting, you mentioned in one of your first slides that you have, I think you put real customer needs so at the central stage. And when you talked about customers, if I understood it correctly, that's patients in your case then.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
but also healthcare workers. You know, we want to make their day easier.
Yeah, so transferring, I guess, either you come from agriculture, forestry, or the blue side in this meeting, just transferring that into your own sector, thinking of who are the customers from your perspective. But I also heard you saying, Siri, here, you talked about the close collaboration between testbeds and industry. And I think that's also interesting from our sector to sort of discuss further how we could even further strengthen that connection. So in many of our testbeds, I know there's a very close connection, and in some, it's something that the testbed coordinators are working on. And also, if I understood you correctly, you see sort of the Nordic Proof as one entry point into then the 7 different test beds. So that's perhaps also something for our network and all of you testbed members and contacts here who are attending the meeting to think about, do you see such a need, and how could a Nordic Testbed Network sort of take on such a role perhaps? So I think that's really some nice food for thought, both for everyone engaged in the network very actively, and also for those of you working sort of in industry, for example. What do you need in order to have more easy access into the test beds? So thank you so much.
If I may add to that just a word, I think it's really a benefit with this kind of one way in that we have in the Nordics. Because different test beds might be differentiated in where they're focusing, and for the industry to get different opinions, I think it's important and good. And when you have kind of a closer connection with the network or test bed, also you can do more kind of inside from the Nordics out in the world and vice versa, so that you can become more interesting from outside the Nordics, maybe.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. So this is a way of sort of making it more international, having a joint voice, if I understand you right, to spread market, the Nordic and in our case then Baltic test beds on a larger scale. Thank you. Siri, I just wanted to ask you as well, because you mentioned you were financed by Nordic Innovation. Did Nordic Innovation provide financing at the start of the Nordic Proof concept, or where in the journey did you receive that funding?
Yes, actually, they have been with us for quite some years, so we are very, very happy about that. And it was actually a pre-project in the some years back, and then they have been our funding partner for the three years. And that project funding is ending now by the end of this year. So we are currently, seeking additional funding, talking to Nordic Innovation as well, of course.
Well, thank you so much, Siri. I really appreciate you taking your time joining us here today, and thanks for a nice presentation.
Thank you.
I think we will come back after the break talking about some of the things that Siri touched upon, and also perhaps think about what kind of test beds do we have within the Nordic Testbed Network. There are at least two different perspectives here as I see it. So it could be that different partners come together to work on a specific issue or trying to find a specific solution, or it could rather be that there's a testbed available for industry to try already developed solutions. And that might be two different sort of concepts that need organizing and financing in different ways. But let's get back to that. I would now like to invite you all for a 2-minute break. Go get a glass of water or stretch your legs or whatever you feel like. And we will be back just in 2 minutes. And then we will welcome Carmen, Jonas and Thordur to a conversation of this. But let's take a 2-minute break and see you back very soon. Welcome back. I hope you all got a chance to at least get a glass of water or something. You're welcome back, and I would now like to introduce the next part of our webinar today, which is a panel conversation. And I'm very happy to say that we have 3 very interesting speakers with us here today. So I have Carmen from EIT Food, I have Jonas representing one of our testbed members coming from Rice, and here representing digitalized agriculture. And I also have Thordur from Nordic Innovation. So most welcome to all 3 of you, and I would like to get you on my screen. There you are. I would like to first start with just making a brief round. So Carmen, could you tell us a little bit about what is EIT Food and what is it that you do at the EIT Food?
Thank you very much, Maria. So the EIT Food is for those of you that are not familiar with, is the branch of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology that is working on the transformation of the food system, specifically the European food system. We are supported by the European Union, and we invest in projects, organizations, individuals, companies, entrepreneurships that are sharing our goals, which are achieving more sustainable agriculture, aquaculture, alternative proteins, among others. And we put a lot of effort also on the digital traceability and digital transformation of the food system. Particularly, among all the projects that we work together with our partners, we are a network of companies. among all the projects that we collaborate, I would like to highlight the end-to-end digitalized production testbed, which is the one that one of the projects that I actively participate in. This project is a cross-sectoral activity where we collaborate with other EITs, so with EIT Manufacturing, EIT Digital, and EIT Raw Material, to advance and to promote the adoption of advanced tools by the European industry, and more specifically this year, the food industry. So we've launched, after 1 year of investigating what to do and how to do it, we have 3 running testbeds working on widening or facilitating the adoption of artificial intelligence, in this case, in the food production area. I think that's a good summary. I will tell you about them later if I have the chance.
Thank you so much, Carmen. I think you are involved in a range of very interesting initiatives, and not the least those 3 testbeds focusing on AI and food. So thank you for that brief introduction. I would also like to welcome you, Thorder, from Nordic Innovation. Could you say a few words on the involvement of Nordic Innovation in this topic of testbeds?
Yes, thank you. So I represent Nordic Innovation, and Nordic Innovation is an organization under the Nordic Council of Ministers. So we are a part of the Nordic family, if you like. And our aim at Nordic Innovation is to make the Nordic region a pioneering region for sustainable growth by promoting entrepreneurship, innovation, and competitiveness in Nordic business. And we do that by different means, but one tool that we think is quite or we have seen to be useful is testbeds, and primarily I'm talking about testbeds across the Nordic borders. This has proved to be very useful tool for achieving our goals. Yeah, so this is sort of a brief introduction about how we are engaged in testbeds.
Thank you so much, Thorda. It's very nice to have you in this conversation. I understand that Nordic Innovation use testbeds as one sort of tool to reaching this innovative, competitive region that you're looking for. Thank you so much. And I would also like to welcome Jonas, of course, representing one of our testbed members. Would you like to say a little bit, Jonas, about yourself and also digitalized agriculture?
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you for the invitation to join this panel discussion today. I'm representing RISE, which is a research institute of Sweden. It's a polytechnical institute with about 3,000 employees, and there is competence within lots of different areas within RISE. The agricultural part started some 76 years ago as GTI, Swedish Institute of Agricultural and Environmental Engineering, and now since a couple of years ago it was joined together with lots of other domain-specific institutes into RISE, which I think is a very good thing when it since there is more and more technology and so on coming into agriculture, which means that you need to have lots of competence also within the specific technical areas, not only in agriculture, so to speak. So, well, I'm head of this testbed digitalized agriculture since the start some 3 years ago. And well, a driving force for me is to facilitate sustainable development within agriculture through use of new technology. And I think, well, we have lots of challenges ahead, the whole world, in fact. And I think if we use these new technologies and so on, we could make it, so to speak, but it will not come for free. We need to work on it. And this is one way of working on it. And if we work together, I think it's much more likely to be a success. So that's why I think this network for test beds is a really good thing.
Well, thank you. Of course, happy to hear that. I guess there are more of us sharing that sort of passion of trying to support sustainable development through digital technology. And I'm curious to hear, Jonas, if you could say something about, you said you've been with digitalized agriculture since it started about 3 years ago. Could you say something about the development over these 3 years, especially from the perspective of sort of how you organized it and the partnerships you've been working with? Did it turn out the way you expected when you set up this testbed?
Well, to begin with, the testbed started as by the book, so to speak. So it's a possibilities to experiment with the data and how to use data, and it's also looking at autonomous and electric farm machinery. And of course, one big part of the testbed setup was to provide some kind of cross-linkage between different types of actors, like big and small, global players and startups, academia and authorities, agriculture and tech, and so on. So that's why we created a consortia with 18 partners that represent different parts of this, different types of actors, so to speak. So we started as with a quite practical setup, but during the years, we realized that there's much more need to work on the software questions, at least when it comes to digitalization. So in practice, we have really worked on, for example, rights to use data, or how you collaborate on data, or how you create trust in the system, and that kind of questions. And well, so it's really a matter of trying to catalyze a system transformation rather than just providing like a test bed or a specific expertise or help within a specific area, so to speak. So, well, from now on, it's we're trying to work on this testbed setup by adding more projects that work on different parts of these specific needs that we see within this area. So, for example, we have a workshop or a data workshop. It's called. It's a type of project set up together with the Swedish Board of Agriculture, where we will continue this work on these soft questions in digitalization and so on.
Well, thank you. So, I mean, what I hear you saying here is that you started off with a more practical approach and gathering all these different stakeholders that you knew would be important to work on this complex issue. But then, if I understand correctly, as years went by, you realized that this is more of a system transformation, and there are a lot of different soft issues that are crucial, such as the trust in the system and then the trust in data sharing, and then the legal aspects that came with that. So okay. How is and where are you at the moment now? So now you're 3 years into the testbed, and what are the sort of the future? What does the future look like for you at the moment?
Well, like most testbeds, I think it's a difficulty. This going from like a startup finance possibility that, for example, we got a project financed by Vinnova and the 18 partners, and when this project is finished by the end of this year, we need to find something else to finance the whole setup. And the way forward, we think, is to divide it into different smaller parts that we can work on need basis, so to speak. So we can apply for different parts that we try to put together in a systematic way or something like that. But the difficult part is to finance things like maintaining networks and like running costs and that kind of costs that are not as well. They are specific, of course, but they are working in a broader sense than well, it's difficult to apply for those costs.
Yeah.
That's what I think, and that's what we're struggling with, I think.
Well, thank you for sharing. I would like to turn to first Nordic Innovation and then also to EIT Food and Carmen, asking both, I mean, any reflections on here the journey that Jonas is describing for the testbed, and more specifically in terms of the funding. So I thought from your perspective in Nordic Innovation, what is your approach to funding testbeds? So you both fund testbeds and also networks, as we heard through Nordic Proof. What is it that you are looking for or requiring when you provide funding?
Well, we see testbeds mainly as a tool to achieve our mission, or a vital step to achieve our mission to increase competitiveness of Nordic business, but also to make the Nordic area the most integrated and sustainable region in the world. So that, I mean, that is just to say that we see this as a very vital thing, and examples of projects that we have seen to be very useful are Nordic Proof. We have a living labs in Nordic smart cities. Cruise ship testbeds, travel tech testbeds, and so on. But I mean, if you're talking about the challenges, and just bearing in mind that we are focusing on innovation, not research, then maybe if I highlight 4 challenges that we see, then one is the business model of the testbed. That the business model has to be thoroughly thought through, and it has to be well argued what should be financed with public money, if you like, and what should be financed with private, with those participating, for example. Then the structure, it has to be a one-stop shop, and this has, in our experience, been quite of a challenge. So that you have to be able to provide the different actors a sort of a key solutions. And then it's marketing. The testbeds have to be clever to market their own testbeds and attract participants. And then it's the capacity, especially that we are working across the borders. Then we want to have testbeds and that are capable of, for example, providing companies from the US, Canada, or elsewhere that want to test their products in the Nordic region. They have to have the capacity to do so. I mean, these are sort of the 4 points that in our experience have been a bit of a challenge.
Thank you, Thorda. I think it's interesting to hear from your perspective as Nordic Innovation, and you here lift, for example, marketing and the capacity, being able to reach out, and if I understand you correctly, to get sort of paying customers or industry to come in to pay for services. If turning to you, Carmen, from your perspective, and you mentioned these 3 AI testbeds, what is your experience? How can one work with sort of providing stable testbeds that, when the initial funding is ending, could still continue their operations?
Thank you, Maria. And following the reply from Thordur, I think in that sense we are kind of aligned that the business model, there must be a business model for the testbed later. So I would like to relate a little bit with the reflection that you've done, Maria, before. So you were talking about what the type of a testbed should be, like an environment where you can test specific solutions or a space to test new solutions. And I think the combination of both is a key. Last year, when we were defining what we wanted to support and what were the needs of the industry, we did a survey, and that survey showed that that most of the European food SME, and I'm talking about food and beverage, not so much at production level, and that's something to be clarified. Food SMEs were not ready for a lot of advanced tools, in the sense that the digitalization or the readiness level, the methods that they had in place were maybe not sufficient for adopting advanced tools. And one of the key barriers that they identified, besides having the team, was the knowledge on what artificial intelligence was and how could those kind of solutions benefit them. And the other one, they pointed out that having access to practical testbeds and use case by other players would be relevant for them to understand how could they benefit for these kind of solutions, and also what others are doing and the risking the investment, because investing in advanced solutions is expensive for a company that needs to stop their production level, that to stop their workflow and to transform all the process. So that is a risk, and anything that can lower those risks would be beneficial for the adoption of these tools. Based on those kind of replies, the call that we launched was focusing on that. So was taking that into consideration, and we shaped the call for the testbed that they should respond to the market needs. So even if you're testing and developing new solutions, whether you are want to test solutions for a specific product line, what you are offering and the testbed you are building, it needs to somehow to respond to the demands of the market and the needs. For that, we also looked for consortia that are strong, combining research, combining tech providers, and combining end users. So if you are the testbed that are developing new tools will result in a tool that will be useful for the industry. And one of the things that are important as well, and that were important, one of the things that was important at the time of selecting the testbed that are now running was accessibility. So in order to make an impact in the industry and for the testbed to be able to be self-sufficient in the long run, it needs to be accessible for the clients, let's say, that you want to reach. But of course, that comes at the cost of maintenance and everything that Jonas has mentioned before. So that's why the business plan and the business model needs to be clear, and the testbed needs to respond to the needs of the industry in order to have clients. We did a different survey also on the willingness to pay by the industry to have access to this kind of testing and learning environments, and 60% of the companies that responded to this survey mentioned that they would be interested in accessing this kind of testbeds, and they would be willing to pay for a fixed rate more than viable. If they believe that the this accessing this environment and testing the new solutions could have an effect in their businesses. So again, the testbed needs to reply to the market needs. The testbed needs to have a solid business plan afterwards, and a lot of marketing is needed, I will say, as well, if as any other product. I don't know if that's replying to your question somehow.
Well, I think it's very interesting. Thank you, Carmen, and also these different surveys that you've done, both on sort of the SMEs within the food sector here then, and sort of the risk that they are taking on and how we can lower that risk. That's one perspective. But then I guess from a testbed point of view, it's interesting to see, okay, but who is actually going to pay for our services then? And then of course your willingness to pay survey among the industry is interesting. But I'm here really curious to hear your reflection on this, Jonas. Does this sort of fit into your everyday operations, and do you see the same picture here? And then I'm also interested to hear, Jonas, your reflection on the time horizon here, because we're then talking about developing something that is readily available for SMEs so that they can actually use it. But can you do that in 3 years, Jonas? You're talking about systemic transformation. Is that doable in a 3-year period, or what's your take on that?
No, I think it's a well. It takes a really. I mean, it depends on where you start, of course. But what from our experience is that when we started, 3 years hasn't been enough for the users of the potential users of this testbed to be on a on a development level where they need this kind of testbed. So up until now, and probably a bit further on, it's more of this supporting this transformation and trying to catalyze that in a sense. And I think it's also that, I mean, larger companies and organizations, they have the money to put into paying for this kind of services that we can provide. But smaller, like SMEs and so on, don't have that. And then it starts with looking for how to finance their usage of the testbed. So then it ends up in a normal or like a project where you apply for funding and so on. So you can, in one sense, say that the ones that need us the most, they can't pay for the use of the facilities, so to speak. So that's a kind of a mismatch, or it ends up in a slower system, since you can't help them when they need it with what they want to do. Rather, you have to look for money first, and that takes, as you all know, quite some time, and then you possibly can do the interesting stuff. But that's the way it works, so it's difficult to change, of course.
Thank you for that elaboration and reflection, Jonas. Is it possible to get a short comment from you, Carmen, on this? Jonas is here saying that the one that need us the most, they can't afford our services. Is that something that you have seen as well within your work or your studies?
That's something that is true. Like, well, the survey that we launched on the willingness to pay was launched to SMEs in any case. But still, in order for this type of companies to have the availability, that's true, and the willingness to pay, they need to understand what they can get in return. So we are talking about it's challenging. I agree. It can be done, but it depends a lot on the type of company, the type of processes. So, for instance, we saw that for production is easier to see the return on investment that they will have. So by investing in advance, they will get returns in the short run, and that's more obvious. So companies are more willing to invest in this kind of technologies and also to test. One of the things, let's say, or how we see, or our partners, the ones that are implementing actually the testbed, there are a few things. I didn't explain much about them or anything. So maybe this gives you some examples. So one of them is they are working in a lab in a specific food and waste monitoring system. But that monitoring system is portable. So they are testing it in several factories. So that testbed is not something, you don't need an installation. We think always at testbed as a combination of hardware that you need to go to the facilities, and for some things are needed. But in this particular case, the added value is that it's a portable system that they can work, they can operate, they can identify areas that need improvements and without interrupting the workflow. So these kind of investments that have a cost for the companies, but this one-time thing, or several months because you need data to run the systems, can be an option for the industry and easy to see. Other testbeds, such as, for instance, the DigiFoods project, which is a teaching factory for the industry, has been shaped as a class, so a place where they can play, companies can play to see and to test different technologies, but also can be adjusted to specific parameters. So you can test within your factory parameters before you invest. So by having this testing prior to investing can benefit the end users, to both the end users and also the testbed to find customers, let's say. But I agree, it's challenging. Those that need the most are the ones that maybe don't have the means to pay for it.
Well, thank you, Carmen. I would like to, we are going to round off this panel conversation, but I would like just to give the final word to Thorder and Nordic Innovation. Do you also share this challenge, and do you have any sort of good examples of where you've seen it work, where you have seen the customers coming in and paying for the testbed services?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very common challenge, and I mean, we in our testbeds activities, one of the main challenge is to demonstrate to those offering to be the testbeds that they benefit from it. As an example, we have a project with testbeds that are focusing in increasing sustainability of cruise tourism, and then then the challenge was maybe just to demonstrate to the cruise ship industries and to the harbors that if they offer to be testbeds, they can then get in return new solutions. So it will be a win-win for everybody. But I must also admit that this hasn't always worked. We have been struggling. For example, another case would be to operate with mobile phone operators, to ask them to share their data so that we can come up with new innovative solutions. This has been difficult to sort of get them to invest in the testbeds by providing access to data. So, I mean, I think it goes back to the question of business models, that you really need to demonstrate that there is a win-win for everybody to participate in this, and this is a tool that we will continue to do. I can maybe use this opportunity to say that in the coming weeks we will be putting out a call where we will provide funding to 2 testbed networks in the Nordics that have the aim to cooperate across the borders in our health and life science program. So I think this is a very useful way of strengthening our region and come up with new tested innovative solutions. Just to conclude on this, maybe Maria.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Thorsten, and thank you. I think it was very interesting here to have the European perspective represented, and then the Nordic, and then of course with our testbed member, Digitalized Agriculture. And to me, it seems, well, we share the understanding of the challenges, and there don't seem to be any very easy quick fixes. I'm sorry, Jonas, in your work moving forward here. But nonetheless, it seems very important to have these joint discussions and join forces in trying to find the solutions. And what I hear is that this business model concept keeps coming up in the talk here. How do we get different actors to actually pay for these services? So I think we need to continue that conversation within the network. Thank you so much to Jonas Kamen and Thorder for taking your time to engage in these questions. And I hope we will do that again at some point. Thank you. And you're most welcome, of course, Thorder Kamen and Jonas, to stay in the interactive session. Perhaps some of our participants have additional questions for you. Okay, we are closing in on 12 o'clock, and I would just like to invite Per from Nordic Agri Research for a final reflection. What do you say, Per, about the discussions here today? What do you take away from this morning?
Thank you so much, Maria. It's been I think it's been another interesting seminar, raising a lot of important questions surrounding this theme that we have around testbeds. I actually started out my day participating in another seminar which was arranged by Mistra Food Futures, and in short they have an aim to find solutions for the future food systems and meeting all kinds of challenges in that area. And a vital question there is, of course, the question about how to make things change. And that's also something that several of our members in this network is working with, finding ways to make things change. And one of the researchers raised one answer to this is to work with experience and create experience around what is possible. It's not enough to know for a fact based on research to get change. We know that from several areas. And it's not enough to guess, even if it's the best, even if it's your best guess. It's not enough to get change. And as I see it, this working with testbed is a way of filling in the blanks. Some of the speakers have been connecting to that, talking about we can test techniques, we can test equipment, and also we can make it possible for those who otherwise don't get the chance to test to have a platform to test things. And in that way we get experience what could be used in practice. We can address real customer needs, we have been mentioned today. We can address practitioners' needs, sharing among the testbeds in this network best practice, and facilitate the implementation of new techniques through living labs. Also, the testbeds is a great way of collaborating with practitioners and get practitioners and researchers together. So that's a main takeaways from this session, I think. And finally, maybe this last panel discussion got me thinking about these different perspectives we have on being a testbed. Many of us are like projects with a rather short horizon, and others are aiming for finding a business model, and with a much longer horizon, trying to find something for more sustainable for the future, longitudinal plan, so to speak. So yeah, we have a challenge, and I really think that this testbed networks that we are working with together with you, all of you today, and is one way of trying to address this challenge. So thank you so much for inspiring talks and inspiring morning here. So I give the word back to Maria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Per, for those reflections, and I absolutely agree with you, and especially on this last part of perhaps the discrepancy between different testbeds on the one side and different funding bodies on the other side in what we see as the customers and how close we are sort of to reaching a solution that will be adaptable by SMEs. Some of us are very close to the research side, others are very close to innovation or actually adoption of new tools. So thank you to everyone participating. We have in this webinar decided to try out something which is as close to a mingle that we could find. If I would have had you all here in the same physical space, I would have invited you for lunch and some nice drinks. But since I can't do that, we have opened up a room in a platform called Wonder. So Ella will now share a link in the chat, and if you click on that link, you will just get a simple question to verify that the platform can use your camera and mic, and you will then enter into a space that looks a bit like what you see on the screen. So you will see different gray areas where you can actually move your small little avatar, and when you get close to another participant, you can start a conversation. So imagine being in a room with different tables, and you move to a table where you see someone you think might be interesting talking to, and then when you actually move your virtual avatar close to that person, you can engage in a conversation. So I would really like to encourage you to click on the link, enter Wonder. It just takes you 10 seconds and give access to your mic and your camera, and then you can take small avatar photos so people would recognize you, and you can just wander around these 6 gray tables and see if you can get into conversation with someone else from the meeting. So that was an encouragement to try to meet up with some of our participants here in the meeting. And by that, I would like to say a warm thank you to everyone participating today. We really appreciate your taking your time and engaging in this very important topic with us. And to stay tuned, you can take part of our newsletter, and you can visit our website, and there are a range of exciting activities in the planning now for 2022, so please stay in touch. Thank you so much for today. I will now end the Zoom meeting and welcome you into the Wonder platform. So please click on the link and see you in Wonder. Thank you so much for today.